Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Christmas Enchiladas with Grilled Pheasant. Well, Christmas time is here, and I can't think of a better thing to cook on Christmas Eve than green and red Christmas enchiladas. And my freezer happens to be stocked with pheasant right now, so we're gonna be grilling up some pheasant to go inside our Christmas enchiladas. Now, for those of you that are wondering, it simply means that we're gonna be making a red sauce, making a green sauce, wrapping up our grilled pheasant in a nice cheesy, creamy sauce, and smothering it with those sauces before baking it on the grill. So what I have here is about 1.5 pounds of pheasant breasts. These have been harvested and sitting in the freezer for the last month or so, but they are ready to be cooked, that's for sure. Before we cook them though, we want to give them a little extra flavor and the opportunity to stay nice and juicy when we grill them. And we're gonna do that with some Sweetwater Spice Lime Jalapeno Fajita Bath. So this is a pineapple juice concentrate with salt and lots of seasonings in it that are great for fajitas, great for anything with sort of a Mexican flavor profile. And you just need equal parts of the fajita bath and water. So we'll top that off, and then we're just gonna let these soak for the next 45 minutes or so. And in the meantime, we're gonna put together some salsas. Now I know it's a holiday and I don't mean to overcomplicate things for you guys, but for Christmas enchiladas, you gotta have 2 different salsas, right? You gotta have the red sauce and you gotta have the green sauce. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing with those sauces. Honestly, if you wanna buy them at the store, I won't shame you for it, but I know you guys would never let me hear the end of it if we did that here. So we're gonna put them together from scratch. Green salsa, tomatillo based with jalapenos. Red salsa is going to be dried chili based with anchos and chipotles. We're gonna start off by toasting those dried chilies and then let them soak, and while they're soaking, we're gonna jump into the green salsa. So here we have our ancho chilies, and before I get them into the skillet to toast them off, I'm just gonna break these open and take the stems and kind of knock those seeds out of there. And then as we get the seeds and stems out of here, just go ahead and throw them right into a dry, hot skillet. So we've got the Lodge 12-inch here over about medium heat right now. Ideally, these chilies should be kind of leathery, not totally dried out. If they've sat in the pantry a little too long, they might have gone full crispy. Just lose a little bit of the essence there. It brings a little bit more water to bring them back. Or a little bit more time rather. All right, so pretty quickly you can already see a little bit of smoke coming off of these. They're starting to soften up. They really become much more pliable when they hit that heat. The chipotle won't quite do the same thing. It's a much more dry chili, but we'll throw it in there for the toast anyway. And then the last thing I'm gonna get in here is a cinnamon stick. And actually we can kind of break that down a little bit here. So as these start to soften, I'm just gonna flip them over. Let them get a toast on the other side as well. We're just waking everything up here. And then we're gonna add enough water to cover everything. We just give this another 30 seconds or so, and man, cinnamon's already popping out. That's fantastic, I love that. Don't stand with your nose too close or you'll start coughing. So now let's get some water in here. We're gonna cover this up with water, throw a lid on it, and bring it up to a boil. And then just as soon as that hits a boil, I'll cut the heat completely and just let it sit and soak for about 20 minutes until those peppers are nice and soft. Now for the green salsa, as you can see, lots of green ingredients. This is gonna be very fresh, a very different kind of salsa than the earthy red salsa that we're making on the skillet right now. We're starting off with about 12 ounces here of our tomatillos. We just wanna get the husks peeled off of these tomatillos, and then we're gonna wanna rinse those off under cold water. This is a really, really easy, fresh, bright salsa to make because all you gotta do is throw it all in the blender and blend it up and then adjust your seasonings. Now you can vary these ingredients a little bit in your green salsa. If you like to use something a little bit milder, instead of using these jalapenos, you could throw in some poblanos or some Anaheim, something with a little less kick. If you like it a little bit spicier, maybe use a serrano. These tomatillos, they're not just green tomatoes. They have a bright, acidic flavor to them. Which is why we're not actually gonna throw any lime juice into our salsa verde today. We're just gonna let the acidity from the tomatillos themselves work as the acid. So once you've got your base flavors here, you've got your aromatics to add to it. Onion, cilantro, and garlic. This onion, we're only gonna need about 1/4 of that. The rest of it we'll save for our red salsa. And everything we're doing here, you can kind of just give it a rough chop because it's going into the blender. We can let the blender do the heavy lifting. And for the garlic, we're just gonna crush those. We don't even need to chop them up. Crush them and peel them. Cilantro, we're gonna use about 1/2 of a bunch of cilantro. It's a solid handful. These are very specific measurements, as you can tell. And then for our jalapenos, it's up to you. If you want to leave the seeds in and make it a little bit spicier, go for it. If not, just go ahead and kind of cut those out. Give that a rough chop and throw that right in with everything else. We'll leave about 1/2 of ours in there. The tomatillos still have some of that junk on the outside, so I'm gonna go rinse these off before we add them to the blender. All right, so probably just cut these in half. Honestly, the Vitamix can handle the whole ones, but these big guys will probably just break them down a little bit. All right, so let's just start this out on low and then crank it up. Now you can go as smooth or as chunky as you want on this. I want a pretty smooth salsa verde. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit and we're gonna sprinkle in some of our smoked salt, a little bit of the hickory smoked salt. That's gonna make all those flavors pop. Man, look at that vibrant green color, incredible. And that just smells so bright and fresh. That'll bring you right back to summertime, huh? Oh, that's got just the right burn. Love the acidity, no lime juice needed. 5-6 ingredients, 5-10 minutes, and you've got a fantastic fresh green salsa. Let's move back to the red salsa now. Well, these chilies should be softened up nicely now. And now we've already taken the seeds out of these, so we don't have to do anything else to them except for throw them in the blender for the next step of making the salsa here. We're just gonna fish these out with a slotted spoon, drain off some of that excess liquid. Now those cinnamon sticks, they've done their job. We don't need those for anything else. They've steeped their flavor into the soaking liquid here. So we can throw away the rest of the cinnamon sticks. Anchos and chipotles go into the blender. And I want to save back about 1 cup of this soaking liquid to add to the salsa later. This stuff smells so good. It's got the chili aroma, but it's also got that cinnamon aroma. It almost reminds me of like a Christmas tea. That's gonna add some extra flavor to the salsa in the end. Now, even though these two salsas are very different, they do have some overlapping ingredients, which makes sense. We use a lot of the same aromatics in a lot of different recipes. So once again, we need to grab that onion that we had 1/2 or 3/4 of left. We're gonna use 1/2 of it here in our salsa rojo. And we're going to dice this down a little bit smaller than we did the other one because we're gonna cook this one down to get a little bit of caramelization on it and soften these onions up just a bit. And then we're gonna get about a 1/2 dozen cloves of garlic here. And these we want to get minced up because again, we're gonna be cooking them. All right, just uniform, doesn't have to be super fine, doesn't have to be perfect. So we got the skillet rolling over medium heat. Again, you need a little bit of fat, doesn't matter much what it is. We're using duck fat today. You could also use lard or oil, whatever's easiest. We're gonna add our onions here. And we'll let those start to cook down by themselves before we add the garlic. Just toss those around to kind of coat them in the fat. We could also throw just a shake of our smoked salt in here. Help start to pull some of the moisture out. So if you're wondering, we're cooking down the onions for the red salsa, but we use them fresh for the green salsa. Why is that? Well, you gotta think about the salsas in the end. The green salsa, very bright, very fresh. The red salsa, very earthy. So if there's anything that we can do to help that earthiness, say by caramelizing some onions and adding some extra depth of flavor, then we're gonna do that to match that red salsa. And then we get this really fantastic juxtaposition between the two. Bright, green, fresh, dark, red, and earthy. And kids, if you didn't learn anything else on Christmas break, it's the word juxtaposition. All right, onions are looking translucent, starting to brown around the edges, so we're gonna go ahead and add the garlic now. Cook this down for another minute until we cook that rawness out of the garlic as well. All right, so into the blender with our onions and garlic. And then we're gonna come in with our seasonings. Now I'm really excited about this brand new seasoning that I've been able to develop with Cattleman's. It's their new taco seasoning, the Mexicano. We're gonna add a couple tablespoons here. And the only other thing we need there is just a whisper of allspice. Just a pretty little whisper of allspice. All right, so onto the blender. Let's get this thing started, and we'll start to add some of our soaking liquid as well. Now initially this is just gonna create a really thick chili paste until we start to add our liquid. And you can do this as much or as little liquid as you like. Start off with just a few tablespoons, maybe a quarter cup, and crank this up. Add a little bit more, smooth this out. All right, wow, incredible aroma. Smell those chilies. This is all really smoothed out. Now this is not an enchilada sauce at this point. This is definitely a pureed salsa, but it's the flavor that we want. Oh man, it's just dark, earthy, great back end heat. Whew. I love it. That's gonna be great on the pheasant. It's gonna be great next to the green salsa. Next, we're gonna grab our pheasant out of that marinade, get them dried off just a little bit, seasoned up, and let's take them to the grill. All right, so those got that good 45 minutes or so to soak in the marinade. Just gonna lay these out and dry off some of that excess liquid. Don't need to rinse these or anything. There's lots of great flavor on the outside of there. We just don't want so much liquid on the outside that it washes off our seasonings. We'll leave a little bit behind to act as a binder. All right, so we're gonna get these seasoned up with our taco seasoning, the Mexicano from Cattleman's Grill. I'm gonna be generous with the seasoning. This is going to go into a sauce. Please don't tell me you're sick of sauces yet, because this next one's gonna be the really nice creamy one on the inside of the enchiladas. And we're gonna get to that shortly, but you'll find that the seasoning on the pheasant here is actually gonna be what seasons that sauce. Today we're cooking on the Yoder Smoker's YS640S pellet grill. We've got it set up for direct grilling on the left side of the grill with grill grates in place so we get some really nice color, some char on the outside of the pheasant breast. We're running it hot, 500 degrees. It's a thin piece of meat, so we wanna make sure we get color on the outside before it's cooked and possibly dried out on the inside. That's what we're trying to avoid. We've used our marinade, now we just have to use our thermometers, make sure that we finish dead on at 155. I'm just gonna hit our grates with a little bit of fat here, a little more of that spray duck fat, prevent some sticking. And then we'll go right over the flame with our pheasant breasts. So we'll start out initially with the door open to make sure we get good color on these. Once that releases itself from the grate, we know that it's ready to flip, and we've got a little bit of color going, which is great. As we get out here to the edges where this one hasn't quite seen as much heat as the others, you can see how it's still stuck just a little bit there. Just give it a little bit of time, it'll release itself when it's ready. All right, so now that we've got all the color that we want on these, we can close the door and continue to cook them until they reach that 155 degree mark, which on most of these we're about 15 to 20 degrees off, even 10 degrees maybe. So that'll just take another 5 minutes or so. So real quick here, as the pheasant finishes cooking and rests, and right before we get all that chopped up, we're gonna just make a very simple, creamy, cheesy sauce to toss all of that pheasant in. Now we're starting off with a roux. We've got a couple tablespoons of unsalted butter here. Just gonna get that melted down. So we'll add to the butter 3 tablespoons of flour and whisk this together and start to cook down our roux. This won't take long over medium heat. You certainly don't want to scorch your roux, but a light browning is fine. You're going to use your nose to tell you when you're ready to add your liquid. It should smell aromatic and kind of nutty, but definitely should not smell like it's going to be bitter. Probably about 30 to 45 seconds is all it takes here. And we're going to come in with 1 cup of chicken stock. So we're essentially kind of making a gravy here. Add that slowly until it's all incorporated, and then watch it as it starts to thicken, whisking constantly. At this point, we're gonna work in there a 1/2 cup of sour cream. And kind of let that continue to come back up to the simmer. Nice creamy sauce here. And we're gonna add to our sauce some of our cheese. So the majority of the cheese for this recipe, we've got 8 ounces of pepper jack. We're gonna use about 6 ounces of it here in the sauce for the inside or the filling of the quesadilla. I'm just gonna add a handful at a time, and as we watch it melt, we'll add another handful. So as soon as you've kind of whisked out all of the lumps, that means that the cheese has melted and this sauce is finished. We have our pheasant breast here, great color on the outside, still tender and juicy on the inside. Oh yeah, still oozing juice just a little bit. And at that 155 mark, that's really where you can continue to retain some of that juice. Now this I'm just gonna dice up into bite-sized pieces and then add to our cheese sauce. Wow. It's all coming together now. So we give this a little taste. I mentioned earlier that we didn't add any extra seasonings to that sauce. We're just letting the pheasant itself do the seasoning with all that taco seasoning on the outside. And that works out great. Creamy, sour cream and cheese, and pheasant enchilada filling. Oh man, I can't wait to eat these when they're done. We got to get them rolled up, smothered in our sauces, and back on the grill to finish. Now we're gonna get these tortillas filled up with our filling. Want to use a small tortilla. We're gonna try to fit about a dozen of these into our cast iron skillet before it goes back onto the grill. So we'll use this skillet for the bake itself, but before we do that, we're just gonna rinse it out and start clean. Before we get our enchiladas in the skillet, I'm just gonna do a little bit of salsa here in the bottom. And since we're going red and green back and forth, we're gonna split this 50-50. So we're gonna go red on one half, green on the other. And then when we get the enchiladas in here, we'll flip-flop and we'll go red on top on this half, green on top on this half. All right, so I end up getting about 11 out of this one. 10 to 12 is pretty typical with the recipe this size. We're gonna just stuff these in here. Gonna start to get tight on the sides here, that's all right. Overlap just a little bit. So coming back in with our sauces, we've got green on the bottom on this side, so we're gonna go red on the top. And just spread those out. Now we didn't really talk about it yet, but flour tortillas. We're using flour tortillas. I like to do that anytime I'm doing birds, whether it's chicken or pheasant or whatever it may be. Certainly I've grown up with Tex-Mex and American-style Mexican food, and you may find that corn tortillas are far more popular for different recipes. You just go with whatever you like, man. I love a corn tortilla for a beef enchilada. I love a flour tortilla for a chicken or a pheasant enchilada. We're doing pretty good on salsa here, so I'm just gonna fill in the gaps. And we're just gonna top this off here with a little bit more of that cheese. That'll let us know where the split is, like we couldn't tell otherwise, right? And our enchiladas are ready to go back onto the grill. Now at 350 degrees, and we're gonna move them up to the top so we don't get too much radiant heat and scorch the bottom. So in placing this up here on the top, we also get some radiant heat coming off the top, which is gonna help to brown the top. Our sauces melt into the enchiladas and warm everything, and the cheese melts on top. Well, our enchiladas have been cooking away for over an hour now, and they are ready to come off. I'm gonna show you what to look for to know that they're done. All right, so you can see how everything's really darkened, especially on that red sauce. Even on the green side, you're seeing stuff darken. We've got some browning on top of the cheese. And then we're getting spots throughout, but especially around the edges where it's just bubbling up through that filling. That tells us everything's heated through. All right, I'm just gonna top it off with the leftover salsa that we have here, just to kind of pretty it up. And get that bright red color coming back at us. Same with the green. And we'll hit it with just a little bit of sour cream as well. Finish it off with a little freshness from some cilantro and crumble a bit of cotija cheese on there. All right, I'm going in for the bite. I don't even care that I'm right in the middle. I made it, guys. I can eat where I want. Oh, it's so hot. Smells amazing. Creamy. Great spice to it. It's not overwhelming. The tortillas are just like perfectly cooked. I definitely got a healthy dose of green sauce on that one. But I love having red on bottom, green on top, or vice versa, so you get the best of both worlds. There's contrast in every bite. Nothing's too heavy, nothing's too bright, nothing's too overwhelming. It's a full-on experience. Baby, all I want for Christmas is enchiladas. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com for all of the products featured in today's video. If you enjoyed the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below. And Feliz Navidad. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.